I was reading a Dwayne's book, The Machine Layer,
Mhm.
over the holidays, and he was talking about, which I knew about this, but he really put it together pretty well. I'm going to have him on the podcast, but um, AI influence. So when we get into KPIs, AI is influenced by what you're saying, but is not referencing you, right? So your framework, like really making sure that that's well defined and, potentially trademarking and all that sort of thing is important. So you get attribution for that because it might take your framework and it might apply that framework and it might impact it, and then it never gives you credit. And so
Right.
how do you measure that? Right. And so that is some of the factors around trademarking the LLM visibility and going, hey, y'all can fight over whatever you want to call it. This is what I believe it is. This is what we're doing. We're just gonna we're gonna just build this over here. And if anybody that I'm talking to want to come over there and check it out. And then, some of the industries followed a little bit in that direction, but I still think that there's GAO and AEO and AI SEO, like all of that I think is relevant, but that where that battle is on the naming convention is distracting on the implementation of what's happening. And really what we're seeing is clients need to understand how to measure this. And
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody's come up with some clear KPIs. And I don't think that search rankings are the right metric anymore. And so we've been really slowly moving away from that because it's not even relevant. It's just like we're looking at just honestly, it's like revenue. Like where's the revenue? Like, and can we figure that out? And what is that? And work our way backwards from that. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that that's what we have done. And that's the only way in the conversation with clients to explain what's going on is just like, look at your bottom line. Like, is what we're doing having an impact? Does it make sense? Is it logical? This is good business. This is good marketing, like, period.
Yeah, no, what you're talking about is exactly what we found has worked really well for us. A few years ago, we started really, and some of it was because we realized no one wants to engage with someone, whether it's an agency or hire someone who doesn't ask the right questions and just does the work blindly for 6 months or a year, and then it's like, oh, I wish I would have known that, or I wish you would have told me about that KPI or how this impacts CRM or whatever. Like me, the 18-year ago, starting out SEO, just wanted to do my stuff and stay in my lane and stay in my channel because I had enough to worry about there in that world and keeping up, versus like getting into messy corporate politics on the client side or ask questions about things that were outside of my channel or outside of my subject matter expertise. But my team and I realized, even though our focus, as we narrowed our focus to just search and websites and stop doing branding, social, email, and creative services and the 12 things we're doing, you get down to just two things as an agency. We still have to, we can't just hide in that silo or in that subject matter expertise, but we have to start with, we're going to get fired even if it looks like all of our KPIs are up and to the right. If someone can't measure that gap between what we're doing and how it's impacting their bottom line, and it definitely has gotten harder, but it's also a lot easier when you can have transparent conversations, whether it's with the C suite or whatever highest level you can, to your point of working backwards, whether it's from revenue or profit and whatnot. It's been interesting when we've asked some of these questions sometimes to, senior global directors of marketing, about how their business makes money. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm just asking you about SEO. Why are you asking me some of these ROI questions about profitability? But we need to understand that so we can have full visibility of that to be able to help them understand. Because to your point, it's like, do we want to pour more into this, or is that an unwise decision? Either in this moment because you're not ready yet, because there are some other problems in the foundation of your house, or in a couple of cases, you don't, this is not the right channel. You do not need paid search. To your point, you have an SEO problem, not a paid search problem. Or even one of the stories I share in my book too about a client actually didn't become a client, they were a prospect, asked us to audit their paid search because they're like, well, we feel like we're getting this level of profit, but we feel like if we outsource it to an expert, they might be able to take it even further.
Mm,
What we ended up finding out is they thought they were 20% profitable on those leads. They were actually 20% negative because they had attribution problems and weren't connecting those dots. Like, you don't need to spend any more. Maybe you need to spend less until you get these 3 or 4 things fixed. So we probably sold ourselves out of potentially taking that on, but we would have been fired anyway when they would have figured it out down the road on accident or when harder questions were asked later. And so it doesn't feel comfortable early on if you're deep in the weeds like I was as a channel person and just want to nerd out on one thing, but thinking like a C-suite or CMO or director of marketing and what they're accountable for and working backwards from there just opens up a lot of new layers to be able to be successful or navigate it together versus being, walled off and in a silo away from the actual KPIs that matter.
Corey, one of the things that you said is a discussion point in all the crazy conversation that's been going on. And I went to more conferences last year than I've gone to in a long time because I really wanted to like talk to people and hear their stories and join some masterminds and all that sort of thing.